everybody, welcome to another video, and this video is the long-awaited QUINNS journey video. So, where do I begin? Well, I know where I begin, and that is the 1st of May 2014. That is when actually I met Quinn for the first time and everything started. So let's get into the video, the long-awaited, very probably long video of QUINNS journey.
Good time, I don't care.
Okay, so like I said, mine and Quinn's journey started in 2014 on May the 1st. So I went to the stables for my first lesson on the 1st of May. I was supposed to be on Quinn, but my confidence was at such a low that they didn't think put me on a newly backed 5-year-old was potentially the best idea. So by experience, I probably would have been absolutely fine on him, but my confidence just was not ready to be on something like that yet. So instead I was put on a lovely pony called Harvey. Well, he was a horse, but I was on a lovely horse called Harvey who I rode consistently up until the October just to build all my confidence back up. And then in the October, I started branching out, riding different horses, and I loved it. And that is when I had my first sit on Quinn. So I just had private lessons, half an hour private lessons with him and all the other ponies, and he was the one that I did actually fall in love with the most, and I really enjoyed riding despite him being a bit of an arse, and he was a bit of a challenge, but that's why I liked riding him. So after doing all these lessons, I kind of now wanted to start getting back into loaning horses and sort of having my own again, because I missed doing all the yardy stuff as well. So I broached the yard owner about loaning, and Quinn was the only one available to loan. Luckily, it was like it was fate. Because he didn't really get ridden in the riding school and he didn't get used much, people didn't like riding him because he was a bit of a challenge. He didn't obviously fulfill his hours in the riding school, so I could make them up by loaning him. I had my first group lesson on Quinn on the 1st of November 2014. I do have a picture. We both look very different, as you can tell. So yeah, we just had lessons. I had weekly lessons on a Thursday night at 4:30 for half an hour, and I continued to ride loads of different ones, but he was obviously my main one that I loved riding. And I also then would go on a Saturday and see him and like mucking out and things like that, and I would loan him 2 days a week, so on the Thursday and on the Saturday. During the holidays, the yard held like fun competitions and in-house competitions and things like that. So I entered the show jumping competition, which was it was the Christmas Eve clear round basically. And I actually hadn't jumped Quinn yet. So I was being a little bit ambitious to try and enter this competition, but we had our first jumping lesson together on the 11th of December. Obviously back in 2014, quality was not the best on mobile phones, so you'll have to excuse how poor the quality is of the pictures and the videos that I do have of me and him. So then it came round to Christmas Eve and we were doing the Christmas clear round, and we came 5th. So I was really happy with him and so proud, because he'd only been ridden for just under a year and I had only jumped him twice myself. I jumped him obviously for the first time on the 11th of December, and then I had a lesson at some point between the 11th and the 24th jumping him again. So I was so happy that we managed to come round to 5th place. So then I carried on doing all my lessons. During each of the half terms, I entered as many of the competitions as I could. The in-house ones like on the yard, we did gymkhanas, we did more jumping competitions, we had just like general loan a pony fun days and things like that. The 8th of August 2015, I started working at the yard as a Saturday girl. So obviously then I was a little bit more involved in the yard. I could spend more time with Quinn, I was with him a lot more. I could do a lot more bits and pieces with him as well. I was obviously now getting a little bit older. I was 16 in the May to come. So I was branching out a little more in the equine industry. I'd found out a little bit more about things and different sectors in the equine industry. And also I discovered the Pony Club. So I joined the Pony Club in the August to do my D and my D+ test. So every other Thursday, I would be part of the Pony Club at the yard and do train for my D and my D+ test. through Heartland, I discovered Liberty and Natural Horsemanship, and I fell in love with it, just probably like every girl did. And Quinn wasn't the biggest lover of everything he was doing in the riding school, so I thought, why not give it a go? Like, what's to lose? And he loved it, and it really then did help our relationship in the school as well. And I started to do a bit more with him, and he started to enjoy life a little bit more because he just had something different to do. On April the 14th, 2016, I fell off him for the first time, so I'd done quite well to last that long, to be fair, from getting him in the 2014 to having our first fall in the 2016. But that didn't, obviously it's just a milestone in our journey. I was okay, he was okay. We carried on having fun, and then it was the Easter half term and they were holding a dressage competition, so we did our first ever dressage competition. This was my first dressage competition as well. And he was really, really good, bless him. And we did a really, really sweet little test and he did a really good job. And I was so happy with him. So I then went to study equine at college, and my college was over an hour away from my home. So I started to drift off having lessons and just going in there on a Saturday because I didn't have time after college, obviously being so far away. I drifted off the lessons and would just work on a Saturday and see him on a Saturday as college then took over. And I too had kind of been at college, I'd done the equine, horses was my whole life. Obviously I was getting to that 16-year-old age where boys were a thing and partying was a thing, and started drinking at house parties and stuff like that. It was a thing. I'm not gonna keep it quiet and lie. I pulled away from the horses, as you do, and I started to get very much into agriculture and farming, obviously because of the farm boys. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, so I started to move over to the agricultural side a little bit more, and I kind of lost my love and my interest for the horses. But I still carried on going and working every Saturday because obviously it was my job. And I spent the time with Quinn on a Saturday, but he obviously wasn't giving me the best feelings because he didn't want to do the schoolwork. I wasn't in it anymore, so we kind of hit a bit of a stage. So I did actually stop paying for him in loaning terms. I did stop loaning him, and I was just going to go back to the lessons, but I sort of weekly, but I never really did. I kind of just had them here and there, when I could fit them in around like my college and stuff like that. But things then started to pick up again once college had settled down and I'd kind of had my little rebel phase. And in the April, towards the summer starting again, I got a little bit more back into the horses. Quinn obviously had a bit of time off. He just did the odd riding school lesson because that's all he ever did there. And I obviously wasn't doing the other stuff with him. So the break was almost like a bit of a godsend. And he came back and we started doing a bit more of our jumping work, and on April the 20th, 2017, he jumped his first ever filler, and I do have the pictures and it is hilarious, him jumping his first filler. So yeah, obviously then college finished for the summer and I wanted to start hacking out. We discovered that Quinn doesn't hack. He had learnt the trick of get the bit under the tongue and basically just run off into the abyss. So hacking was then my next thing that I wanted to crack and nail with him. So we started on doing some hacking work just around the fields, around our yard. Then it was the summer holidays. So again, there was loads of in-house competitions at the yard, lots of fun days and things like that. And I did a Le Trek and I did a sort of fun ride around the yard before, unfortunately, he was kicked in the field. And this is where we think to this day his problems have stemmed from. So he was kicked in the field by a massive 18-2 show jumper. He is a little 14-hand Highland pony. They were all out in massive herds at this yard. He didn't get on with this horse particularly well anyway. They had a few little spats and things like that. But yeah, it was horrible to see. He was literally beaten to a pulp in the corner of the field and pinned to the ground, and he was absolutely and utterly crippled. He couldn't walk. He was awful. So he ended up he was off all the way until the March, because he was just constantly sore, constantly lame. And then I had my first ride on him again in the March of 2018. And he came back into work really nicely and he was really good. And again, I think the break did do some wonders. Backed off doing a lot of the heavy sort of work and heavy stuff because obviously he was injured quite bad. And I had some sort of fun days with him, did a lot of groundwork, carried on doing a lot of the Liberty stuff. And then in the April, we did our first gymkhana again. And he came back with a love for gymkhanas. He got so strong, he got really full of himself. He was obviously feeling good, he was very happy again, and yeah, he was a bit of a nightmare out in the gymkhana. I remember my riding instructors just standing there with their hands over their eyes like, oh my god, like that poor kid. Whereas I was loving it. I thought it was hilarious. I'll insert a video of him going up and down in what was supposed to be the canter race. Quite impressive moves for a big hippo. So yeah, I then obviously was off college, so the agricultural sort of love for agriculture, or the agriculture boys, who knows, it kind of drifted away because I was back with the horses all summer. So again, I started to do a lot more with him, and I was 18 now, so I was on the verge of an adult. I was very sort of, what's the word? I was so much more clued up with all the horsey stuff. And obviously I was on Instagram by this point, so I was seeing everyone else do cool things and having photo shoots and bareback, and I was like, oh, I want to do all that. And so I was like, I'll do it. Like, I was 18, I had no fears, and we started to do loads of fun things like that, which turned him around, and he did really well. So again, I still wasn't having any lessons at this point. This was just me riding him like every day in the summer and going down and stuff like that. I wasn't paying in terms of loaning him. I was just doing loads with him to bring him back into the riding school, because she was debating on selling him, and I was like, no, he can be the best riding school pony. I will prove this to you. So I was doing loads with him to prove that he was a really good pony for the riding school. Which deep down I knew he wasn't, but I did not want him sold, and I did not want him to go. So yeah, we started doing loads of different things. So we had our first bareback ride, which again, we found out that he loved being ridden bareback, and he loved doing bitless. So very much along the lines of the horsemanship and Liberty work. So I also started to lunge him in 2018. Tried to get him a bit more fitter as well, and a bit more muscled up. Now, I'd learned about that obviously through college. I learned a hell of a lot to do with the equines, and so I started to input that into him, and it's when I started to see like really good changes in him. Yeah, so then on the 25th of April we had our first photo shoot together, the most sort of cliche Instagram thing, but yeah, I had my first photo shoot with him. I'll insert all the pics. He was so good. We had such good fun. We went out in the fields, rode in bareback, just had some posy shots, and yeah, we had a great time. 6th of May, I jumped him the biggest that he'd ever jumped and I'd ever jumped, and that was a grand total of 85 centimetres. But as I've always said, he is not elegant to jump. He's a big, heavy thing to get off the ground. He's not a light little pony to ping over a jump. So this was a big thing, and it was something really, really good. 10th of July, we then did a little display for one of the fun day kids of our Liberty work, which was really, really cool. That's something I'll never forget, because I was really nervous that everything was going to go tits up, but he did so good. Yeah, I was so happy with him. 18th of August, we had our first hack off the yard. So like I said, I've been working on his hacking for all that time, and I had got to the point where I could ride him in open fields, bareback, bitless. And he was so good with his hacking now, and he had learnt to love it, not just like, yes, I'm free, run kind of thing. He'd learnt to just, yeah, cool, let's go for a nice plod out, and he really enjoyed his hacking. So we went for our first hack off the yard to the orchard, and we had a lovely canter out, and it was just the best feeling. 15th of September, we went for a little group ride, all of us all around like our fields, and we did a little fun ride, which was really, really good fun. Then college started to get really busy again, and I unfortunately like dipped away from the September to sort of like the February. I had to pull back again because I was back to college on my last year of college now, so it was the serious year, and yeah, had to pull back from it a little bit, which was a shame, because I did feel like we had got to quite a good point. So yeah, in the February, obviously then it was winter, hacking couldn't really do much of, couldn't really use the cross-country jumps up in the fields. So I started to do a little bit more and focus really on the bitless work in the school. And again, he was awesome. Like he was loving it. He was so good. And it's something that again we found that he really did enjoy. So like I said, I wasn't paying for him loaning, but I was paying in the sense of I was keeping him good enough to keep in the school. So it wasn't a physical money transaction going, because I couldn't afford to pay a money transaction. I was starting to pay for bits and pieces for myself and faux contract and driving lessons and things like that. So I couldn't afford £20 a week loaning. So instead we had the agreement that I would work him and do other things with him, like the hacking and the lunging and things like that, to keep him good enough to be in the riding school. And this is where things started to go seriously tits up, and this is where things went downhill for me, for him, for our relationship, for everything. So there was also another girl who was riding him, and she loved him. Like, it was great that someone else loved riding him as much as I did. And I obviously had him now for 4 years. I'd been working with him. And his owner and the owner of the riding school knew how much like we loved each other, and everyone did, and everyone was like, you two are made for each other and yada yada. Like, we were just known as Caitlin and Quinn. Like, you thought of Quinn, you thought of me, you thought of me, you thought of Quinn. It was just how it was. So yeah, I then went into work on the 8th of April 2019, and I would muck out his stable before work. So now I was at college, I was working on a Thursday, a Saturday and a Sunday there, so I was working 3 days a week there. Again, because obviously I wasn't loaning him in money terms, I would do other bits and pieces, like I would muck him out on my days I was working and things like that. So I'd always muck him out before work. And on the 8th of April, I walked into the barn after I'd mucked him out, and I was just about to start work and feeding all the horses, and this girl come over to me and goes, "Why is my pony mucked out?" To which I was like, who? What? Like, I was lost. I had no idea what was going on. She was like, "Quinn, why is my pony mucked out? Why is Quinn mucked out?" You can imagine, it literally felt like someone had just shot me, and my face hit the floor, and I just was like, well, I always muck him out before I do work. Like, that's my loan. That's what I do is in terms of loaning him. She was like, well, I loan him. And yeah, I had no idea. I was in the dark. I was clueless. I was baffled, absolutely baffled as to what the hell was going on. So I kept quiet. I was like, okay, like whatever. I think I was so shocked, I just didn't know what to do. I obviously went home, bawled my eyes out to my mum and dad. My dad ended up ringing my boss / Quinn's owner / the riding school owner. And they had a massive argument on the phone. I had a massive argument with them on the phone. And basically, because these people had come forward willing to pay £100 a month to loan him, I didn't even get a second thought, and they got him. He was now that girl's loan pony. Despite everything that I'd done, yeah, I was just put in the drain, basically. So yeah, Quinn now had a new loaner. That was it. We were done. Quinn and Caitlin were no more. I couldn't ride him anymore unless I paid for a lesson on him. I couldn't do anything with him. The hacking stopped, the liberty stopped, everything stopped. He was no longer mine to do anything with. So that then put a real shitty spin on being at the yard. I resented the yard owner. I hated what she'd done. I hated being there. I didn't like being there and not being able to do anything with him. I felt so guilty and I felt awful because he just reverted back to his old ways so quickly. He hated what he was doing. He hated being in the school. And that is when I left college. So that was me done for college as well. I had to start thinking about a real job now, what I was going to do with my life. And that really put me off the horses as well, just how crappy the industry was and how people were in the industry. That kind of put the final nail in the coffin, and I managed to I got myself a job on a farm, and I turned around and was like, I'm gone. I wasn't contracted, I wasn't anything, so I just left. I just left the yard. I obviously left Quinn on the 26th of June. That was it. I was gone. That was me removed from Quinn's life, essentially. So yeah, from 26th of June, it was done. So I was working at this job. I was up and down. I was weekends away up here in Norfolk, where I now actually live, with my boyfriend. I was seeing him every weekend. Yeah, I had nothing to do with Quinn. And around that time as well, talks of me moving to Norfolk had begun, and what I was going to do for a job, because the season I was at this farm, it was like an adventure kids educational farm, was coming to an end. The season ended in the November, so I needed to think from November after what I was going to do. I saw a job advertisement for maternity cover in a yard literally just near my boyfriend's house, so the step and the decision was made that I was to move to Norfolk. And then I went back home to see my friends again, and I popped down the yard, and this was on the February the 25th of February 2020. I went to see him again and just popped to have a look. And again, it was horrible. It was heartbreaking. It was so sad. He just looked dead. He just looked dead behind the eyes. He had none of his character, none of his spark. He was just there. Like, he was just Quinn. He was just standing there. There was just nothing really to him, which was such a shame. Randomly in the June of the 2020, I got a phone call after all the COVID and the lockdown, from Quinn's owner, ringing me up to say that she was putting him up for sale because of COVID and everything like that. He doesn't earn his keep in the riding school. He's eating her money, not giving her anything in return. So he is going to be for sale. I'd always said, if you are going to sell him, please let me have first refusals, and depending, like, obviously what position I'm in life, but please let me have first refusals. And yeah, so she managed to start selling him, and I was like, oh no, like, I'm not really in a position, I can't afford it. I was only doing part-time at the shop, so I was like, I can't afford a horse, like, with on top of that. So yeah, I didn't really think much of it. Like I said, what she wanted was extortionate. I knew he was never gonna sell for that. So I went down to see him in the July. I actually helped out for the day in exchange for riding him. And that was actually the last time that he was ever rode. So July the 29th, I went down, I helped for the day, I had a hack out on him, and he was not my Quinn. He was not the Quinn that I was used to. Although everyone was like, you can see he's coming back to life when he saw you, when you were on him. That is the most happy we've seen him in years, which was really nice to obviously hear and see. But he still just didn't feel like my Quinn. And so we had this hack out, and he hadn't really been ridden in the riding school. He obviously hadn't done much because it was obviously COVID. I obviously came home. I didn't think anything else of it again. Didn't think that buying him was still completely out of the question, etc. We then got to the September, and my current job position was advertised. And so I left the shop literally as quick as I could, and because I wanted to get back into the horses. I didn't miss it, despite obviously having that wobble back in the February. And I started at Hill Farm, which is where I am now. So obviously then the chance of potentially having a horse was a little bit more real. So I was keeping in contact with the girl who still worked there. And this was another girl now, not the girl who left, another girl who worked there. I was keeping contact with her about him. And she's like, he literally just goes from field to stable every day. He doesn't get ridden. He's not doing anything. Just before November, I was going to ring her to say, I'm going to have him. And I did, and we came to an agreement on a price, and with tack included and everything like that. And I was gonna have him. So it was I think it was something around like the 5th, 6th of November or something like that, the stable was then free for me to move into. So it was all set, and we were all ready for him to be brought. And the girl who was still working there was like, are you still buying Quinn? And I was like, yeah, hopefully all set for that. And she was like, oh, have you not been told? And I was like, told what? She was like, he's really lame, like he's crippled lame. Wasn't told a thing, was I? So I was literally about to go and buy a completely crippled horse. Again, out of the dark, kept out of everything. So I rang her up and I was like, what's this I'm hearing about him being lame, blah, 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 what's going on? She explained everything. He was really lame. They needed basically vet treatment, or needed to see a vet, hadn't seen a vet yet. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not buying a completely crippled lame horse. Little did she know, I'd got the girl who was still working there and another girl to trot him up so I could see the lameness, and he was so crippled, it was ridiculous. His leg was so swollen, like he had no fetlock, it was just like a puffy blob, his leg. I was like, well, I'm not buying him then. I can't do that. Find out what's wrong with him, let me know what's wrong with him, and then potentially we can do something, but I'm not buying a lame horse. Like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So, she was like, okay, I'll get the vet out, blah, blah. So she got the vet out on the 11th of November. The vet looked at him, gave him a lameness workup, and diagnosed that he potentially had a strained tendon sheath injury and damage to his annular ligament. They couldn't obviously say what damage to the annular ligament without a scan, but that's what they reckon caused the tendon sheath to swell. He needed to have an ultrasound scan, which obviously is quite expensive. So then it was just left, and I was like, okay then, like, what are you going to do? The vets had obviously said, like, it could heal itself, he needs to go on box rest, blah, blah. So he went on box rest for the month. He was then turned out. They obviously had said that, and I was like, well, he needs to be scanned then. So I was waiting to hear when he was going to be scanned. Nothing obviously happened. Christmas went and came by, still hadn't heard anything. So I messaged them in January to be like, what is going on? Like, I was supposed to have purchased him back in November. We found out this lameness in November, kind of thing. Like, have you had him scanned yet? She was like, I can't afford to have him scanned. He's not going to be scanned. If you want him, you can get him scanned. I was like, I'm not paying for a scan for a horse that isn't even mine, which I'm potentially going to have to buy as well. Who is broken? It's not happening. So yeah, I pulled out of the sale and said, like, no. I hadn't heard anything anyway, so yeah, it was what it was. So then I just popped over a message in the January to see if he was any better, sort of how he was, just because I obviously worried and cared about him. Didn't get an answer or anything like that. Messaged the girl who worked there. She was like, as far as I'm aware, he's not had a scan yet. Messaged again, was like, I've heard that he's still not had a scan. Like, why is this? He deserves to have it, blah, blah, blah. Nothing was said back to me. We then rolled on to February, and I finally got a message saying that she wasn't getting the scan done because she didn't have the money to do it, with obviously lockdown again and everything else that happened. And I was like, that makes sense. Obviously that is fair enough, but this horse does need a scan to see what's going on. You can't just leave him in the way he is in, and I would definitely not be getting him if he's obviously not scanned. Again, nothing was heard. And then on March the 12th, I got a phone call from her saying that he's had the scan done. It is annular ligament damage. He is useless to her, so he basically needs surgery. They can't afford to do that, so he's going to be put to sleep. So I was like, sorry, what? Like, what? So yeah, he was obviously going to be put to sleep. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to find out information to see if there's anything that I could do, or maybe could contribute paying or something, because I did obviously not want him put to sleep when it could be quite a simple fix. Yeah, so call me mad, I know, but I obviously cared about him a lot. She then also did throw in that I could have him for free if I paid for the surgery, and he was then under my name, so if anything went wrong, it's my responsibility. So I was like, wow, okay, like, this is a lot to take in, like, this is a lot to do with. Obviously, the livery plan I was going to have him on, which is the livery plan I could afford, was a working livery. If he's lame, potentially needs surgery, no idea what's going on, that working livery plan was not going to happen, which meant I couldn't afford the livery. So again, I was like, well, I can't afford anything, so there's nothing I can really do. She was adamant that he was going to be put down because he was no use to her, they couldn't sell him, anything like that. I didn't want that to happen. So she gave me the vet's number. Luckily I did actually know Ben, the vet, and he explained everything to me and basically said, look, he's free, just take the opportunity, take the chance to do it, because if you do it right, like I know you will, he should be okay. Obviously there isn't 100% guarantee, but he should be at least be able to be like a walk and maybe a little trot happy hacker. So I called Ben, and that was on March the 16th. We had the chat. I then was obviously messaging his owner backwards and forwards and said, I've had the chat with Ben, this situation, obviously need to weigh up a lot, I need to work out a lot, like, can I have the time to do this, please? And she was very good about it and did actually say, yes, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. And obviously I needed a stable at the yard and things like that. I was going to wait for the April stable, and then I was going to get him for free and try and sort out this this annual ligament. So I then threw one message in, which was the original deal was £1,800 with tack included. If I to do this rehab option plan or the surgery plan, I'm going to need tack. If I'm taking him on for free and having to pay for surgery, I can't afford tack on top of that. Is there an opportunity to still have the tack for a small contribution? Even that's fine. Well, that was basically like pointing a gun at her, and she flew off the handle at me. This was the 20th of March. I rang, and yeah, she basically gave me an earful down the phone, told me she couldn't believe that is what I was asking after everything that she was doing for me and giving him to me for free, blah, blah, blah. And I was basically like, well, you're going to put him down, so I'm saving you the money of having a horse shot or put down anyway. So like, it works both ways, to be thankful. What are you going to need the tack for if he's with me anyway, kind of thing. Yeah, so she obviously got very angry at me, and the phone call ended with her saying, pick him up or he's being shot, in complete, oh my God, panic mode. So I then went to my yard owner, Kira, my best friend, and bless her heart, she worked wonders to help me out, and everyone on the yard worked wonders to help me out and get this sorted, to get him. I went down, she was like, have the days off work, like just go sort this out, like get it sorted. So I went down to Essex. I had to get this all sorted, and whilst I was still down there, I was still trying to sort out transport to get him off the yard like by that morning, ASAP Rocky, and 24 hours to try and find transport to get a horse from Essex to Norfolk that needs to be knocked out like an elephant because it doesn't travel or load was not easy at all. And I couldn't find anybody for the Monday morning. So this was on a Sunday night, this phone call happened, that she was like, get him off my yard. I was like, I can't find anyone for the Monday morning. Can I wait until the Tuesday? Please, I found someone for Tuesday. Like, please hold him until Tuesday. She did. And I got him on the Tuesday morning, which was the 23rd of March. I finally got him. He was sedated, he was loaded, and he was out of there like a shot. So yeah, I then obviously brought him to the yard, and that is then where round 2 of oh my God stress begun. So that is where I'm going to leave this video, is on that point of me getting him on the 23rd of March 2021, and I will move and do a part 2 of obviously then from a year of having him and everything that we discovered and everything that we found out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this very long Quinn journey video so far. Yeah, I will see you all in part 2. Bye.